Buckle up and get ready, boys, because today we are going to be ranking every single Kai set. And we're getting right into it because Kai has the most sets out of every ninja, and I do not want this video to be an hour long. But in case you haven't seen my other ranking videos, the rules are as follows. TV show portrayal will not matter. And I'm going to say it again. TV show portrayal will not matter because that's going to be very important to this list. And then also price won't matter. And lastly, I will not be including the Heatwave transforming Lava Dragon on this list because even though the set is marketed as a Kai set with Kai riding the dragon on the box, there are symbols on the top of the head and on the neck for Wildfire, which does suggest that the set was designed with the idea of being a Wildfire set. I actually bought this set for this video, and I absolutely regret that decision. I actually like the build of this set, and I actually think the design of it was a little bit more complex than I expected it to be, but once you get to the finished build, it just feels like an overglorified junior set. Now there are some good aspects to it, like the engine detailing on the front, and the slight rake forward to this build, but this one just left me mostly disappointed. Now, if price was a factor on this list, this set would be at the bottom. I've said time and time again how much I don't like the Evo Dragons, and this one is no exception. The wings feel way too big to me, and I actually think it helps a lot to move the connection toward the back. They decided to change the secondary color from dark yellow to orange, which I don't think was a good idea, and for some reason they only did it on the dragon, but the minifigure has the dark yellow still, so the minifigure contrasts with the dragon. And at the end of the day, these Evo Dragons, they just look so much worse than any normal dragon that I can't really see why anyone would actually pick one of these over a normal one. This mech is alright. Once again, I think it would have benefited from using a different secondary color other than orange to give it some more contrast, but there's really nothing wrong with this one. It's got good posability, cool shooter on the shoulder, and it just does everything that it needs to do. This is a set that I feel like a lot of people forget about, but it's actually fairly solid. It has a good design, it looks unique compared to some of the other Kai vehicles, but since this is a completely different vehicle in the show, I feel like it does get kind of overlooked, even though in reality, this set's pretty solid. This is probably the smallest out of every Kai set, but I think it makes the most out of what it could. It has some features in the ability to flip out the blades and the exhaust, which should kind of act like mini shooters, and functions like that are things I always like to see, especially on smaller builds. And speaking of which, the build of this set, it just looks good. Unfortunately though, like most of the smaller sets, it's good for what it is, but it just can't compete with the larger stuff. This was a very disappointing set in my opinion. The Legacy Blade Cycle just doesn't capture the magic of the original version. And even when I look at it in a vacuum and don't think of it as being a successor to the original Blade Cycle and just as a Ninjago bike set, I still don't think it's as cool as some of the other bike sets. But the one thing I will say this set has that really does elevate it is the function. The ability to splay the blades out from the side works even better on this set than the original one, and it really helps what would take an otherwise pretty average set into something that's a little bit more. The original Fire Dragon is by far the worst of the original dragons. The ankles can't bend, which means the legs are essentially locked into one position, otherwise it's just gonna fall over. The torso and neck are built in a way so they're permanently curved, so even if you wanted to bend this set forward, you can't really move it that far without the head just bonking into the ground. Speaking of which, the head suffers from the same problem as the other original dragon heads, which is that it is super oversized and it really only looks good from the side. However, there is a reason this dragon was designed this way, and that is of course because it was included as a side build in the larger Fire Temple set. And the dragon actually is directly integrated into that set, and it needed to be done this way in order for that function to work. And now that we're talking about the Fire Temple, I have decided to only include the dragon on this list instead of the set as a whole, because I think the temple is more of just a general location similar to some of the other temple sets, rather than a full-on Kai set. But for those wondering, if I did consider the entire Fire Temple as a Kai set, it would be the number one set on this list. If you've seen the Cole video, then you knew this was coming, but if you haven't, let me explain. As I've said before, TV show portrayal does not matter on this list. So yes, even though this is a Cole mech in the show, the actual set is a Kai set. A lot of people in the comments have said that the symbol on the head is actually the symbol on the shield. And personally, I view it more as a modernized version of Kai's logo because it points up like the Kai symbol, while on the shield it's supposed to be a lion, so you would kind of expect the mane to be round. But even if you ignore the symbol on the head, there's a very simple test here. If you look at the box of the set, you know who's piloting this mech? Kai. You know where Cole is? Thrown in the corner. You look at the angle of this set, it's displayed so you can only see the fire side of the mech. You look at literally any official image of the set, every single one has Kai in the mech. There are 2 images of Cole in the mech, and you know what they are? They're images of Cole behind Kai. So even if you want to argue that this is a Cole set because it was a Cole mech in the show on a list where TV short portrayal does not matter, it's very clear that LEGO did not want you to think that this was a Cole set, and they wanted you to think this was Kai's. So with that settled, this set is not very good. The top half is great. The torso looks really cool, and the ability to have 2 minifigures in the cockpit was super smart for a set like this. And I also think the arms look great, and I really like the way the shoulder pauldrons were designed to fold up to store the weapons. Same thing goes for the back of this mech. But then you get to the legs, and these legs are just not it, man. For some reason, they decided to go with the pre-bent knees, which means not only is the set permanently stuck in the squatting on the toilet position, but the posability is just super restricted because the feet are pretty much unable to move because most of the weight of the set is now on the back of the ankles instead of being spread throughout the legs and the feet. And they did all of this in order to do a design that really just doesn't look that good, especially when you compare it to other Ninjago mechs at this scale. The worst part about it too is that they actually had some prototypes of the set at the LEGO house a few years ago where the legs were not like this and it looked so much better. I don't know why they changed it. This is such a random set for Ninjago, but it actually is pretty cool. I really like the shaping they did on the sides of this catamaran. There's a transformation function here which is cool to have, although I don't think it's as cool as some of the other transformation functions they've done. But I will say, the one thing here is that you can't fit Kai sitting down on this boat with this accessory on, and even if you want to have him stand up, he bumps into the sail, which I just do not think is a great design for a set like this, which holds it down. The Kai mech from the Ultra Combo mech is honestly way better than it needs to be. I guess the upper arms are a little weird because they're so skinny, but other than that, this is a good enough mech that you could basically sell it as its own set and people would still like it. The legs and torso look really great, the posability is exactly what you need it to be, and it even comes with its own sword, which they absolutely did not need to do in a set like the Ultra Combo mech, where this is a secondary build, but they did it anyways, and it's great. I honestly would not mind them using this design as a basis for another actual mech set of this scale down the line. The Katana 4x4 is a set that looks much better in person than in the pictures. The shaping on this set is very well done. I especially love how deep the cockpit section is, and it makes the whole thing look extra fortified. The retractable saw on the front works a lot better than I thought it would, and even the spring-loaded shooters are super well integrated into the design. The one thing that holds this down for me is that the back of this set just looks incomplete. I get the idea is that it's supposed to look like a trunk for a pickup truck, but I don't know, man, it just doesn't look good to me. This is another one which I think is super underrated. This set may be on the smaller side, but I still think it's very cool. The design of the boat is super sleek and it looks good from every angle. It's got an ability to fold out the sides and flip forward the spring-loaded shooters, which means there are multiple ways for you to change the entire look of the set, which is great. And there's even a compartment in the front for Kai's weapons. This is just a very well designed set. The original Kai Fighter is the only set on this list that I do not own, and I have no problem saying that this is still a very good set. The function on this set is great, being able to flip the wings backward, and I love the way they did it here. I wish I would have got this set back when it was on shelves because it's a really cool set and it wasn't even expensive, being only $20, but I probably will end up getting it one day if I can find a decent deal on it. This is a set that I really wish they would have done a legacy version of. The Final Battle Fire Mech may be simple, but it's still really good. You guys know I love seeing CCBS pieces integrated into system sets, and I think this set did it the best out of any system set that's ever done it. I also remember as a kid really liking how the mech used the elemental blade instead of just having one of those normal mech sword pieces. I always just thought that was really cool for some reason. I don't know why this set never got a legacy version, because it's not like this was some massive mech that would have been hard to do. The original version was only $10, but I'm not going to complain that much because Kai did get a ton of legacy sets. This is a set that has really grown on me over the years. The Mech Jet is just such a great set. Out of all of the Prime Empire sets, this is the one which I think fits the aesthetic the best. The trans yellow pieces just work really well with the red and white color scheme, and even Kai's regular weapons look like they fit in super well on this mech. And while I am mainly talking about the mech here, this set does have an alternate plane build which actually looks really cool. It's a shame LEGO doesn't really do mechs like this anymore, because yeah, even though it's not as good as some of the modern large mechs, this is still a really cool set for a scale, and it'd be great to get more sets like it. This is the other set that I bought for this video, and as it turns out, this is the only Kai Evo set I actually like. This set is just absolutely hilarious to me. I mean, it's a straight up mech riding a motorcycle. I don't know why they decided to do that, but I'm glad they did because this thing is amazing. The mech by itself is pretty good. They dropped the orange in favor of black, which I think looks a lot better. And the same deal goes for the bike, but this set really shines when you combine them together, lower the spear, and just absolutely launch this thing at random people. Best set of all time. Now, when this set first came out, I was not a big fan of it, mainly because this set is just not as good as the original version. But now that some years have passed, I've learned to appreciate this set more for what it is rather than what it isn't. I really like the sleekness of this vehicle, especially on the front half, and there are some parts that I actually do think was improved from the original version. The function to launch the bike is a lot smoother in the set, and it's just straight up easier to use. Although I will say, I don't love how obvious they made the actuator on this one. Even still, this to me is a very underrated set, because when you look at it for what it is, there's a ton of cool stuff like the detailing on the back, the swords on the side, the overall sleekness of the whole thing, and it is just a straight up good vehicle set. This is my favorite of the crystallized vehicles. It has a super creative design unlike any of Kai's other vehicles, with a ton of moving parts which should make it so you can change the stance of this vehicle and just the overall look of it. It also of course does help that this thing is absolutely massive, but in an actual useful way. You can fit 2 minifigures inside the cockpit, you have the function to flip the blades, and you have the removable drone. Personally, I think most people would agree that this set is really cool, but some people don't like it because it's overpriced. But guess what? Price doesn't matter on this list, and when you're talking about it purely as just a set, this thing is awesome. This may be smaller than the Legacy version, but it's still an absolute classic. There's so many cool things about this set. I think my personal favorite thing is the giant engine on the back, which also flips up into a full 360-degree rotating cannon. Speaking of which, there are 2 more flick-fire missiles which flip out from the side, but there's also a ton of other cool things like the basketball net piece which is used as an exhaust, these Technic fender pieces on the front which are used for the hood which look really good, and then of course you have the launching bike function. And I will say this one, it is slightly more complicated to use, but like I said before, there's just something about the original version that the Legacy version just does not capture. And speaking of sets better than the Legacy ones, we have the Blade Cycle. This remains one of the best Ninjago bike builds to this day. This thing is just so good. It feels massive compared to other bikes even though it was only a $15 set, and like I've said before, the function on here, it may not be as good as the Legacy function because it's just straight up not that consistent, but I still think it's good enough, and at the end of the day, the actual build of this set is so great that I don't really mind the function not working as well. The Legacy Fire Dragon is another very good, although somewhat flawed dragon. I've talked about this before in my comparison video, but I personally think that this set had major stability issues because it straight up just could not stand with the wings spread out, which I believe is a major design flaw because this is a dragon set, and the reality is people want to make this set look like it's flying, and that's something which is not possible with this set, unless of course you want to pose it like this. However, even with that flaw, I still think this is an awesome dragon. They really did do a great job taking all the aspects from the original set and just modernizing it. I love the shaping of the torso, the color scheme still gives off that elemental feel, and they even improved the head so it now looks good from every angle. The wings also look really cool and they're able to fold in and out just like the original set, and they even managed to retain the claws to grab the minifigures as well as that saddle. So no, while I would not consider this design to be perfect, there's so much great stuff here that I can't help but love this set. The Kai Fighter manages to stay true to the original version while still beefing it up and modernizing it. I honestly have no problem about the actual look with this set. I think it looks perfect. The thing which bothers me though is that the way you activate the function on this set is just so weird. For some reason they decided that pushing the button in the back was not good enough, so instead, to activate the function, you push the entire cockpit down, which just makes this thing look so stupid. I think the real reason this was done was because the spring-loaded shooters kind of crash into the cockpit in the normal form, so they did it so those could work better. But you could have just put the spring-loaded shooters on a hinge and that would have been fine, no one would have complained. Even still, this is a massive upgrade over the original set, and it is absolutely phenomenal. The fire mech walked so that the modern mech could run. This set raised the bar for Ninjago mechs, and even though it has been passed by some other sets, this is still a great set with no real flaws in my opinion. I love absolutely everything about it. The flamethrowers are super cool, I think the tube detailing looks great. One of the smartest but overlooked details of the set is how Kai sits more in the middle of it rather than on the very top like most of the other mechs. It seems like something that wouldn't matter, but it actually is a key reason why this set doesn't look awkward even though it doesn't have a head build like a lot of other sets. This to me though, it's an absolute all-time set. I really debated whether or not to include this one on the list because I know there's a lot of people who are going to be really salty that I put this in here because in the TV show, Firstborn is absolutely not a Kai dragon. She's not even a fire dragon. But the reality is, there's not one person on the planet who's mad that I included the core mech even though Cole's the one who used it in the mini-movie. And you know why you don't care? Because it would be stupid because those sets are clearly designed for those ninja, and Firstborn was clearly designed to be a Kai dragon. I don't even know how you can argue that the LEGO designer made this set with the intention of it being a Wu dragon when Wu is not in this set and the other two Wu dragons look absolutely nothing like this one. But if you really want to disagree with me, fine. The fire mech can be number one for you. But now that we got that out of the way, Firstborn, this is an absolutely perfect dragon set. Even if I wanted to say something bad about this set, I couldn't. It's literally flawless all the way around. My absolute favorite part about this set is the wing flapping function, which is just so well integrated that you can barely even tell it's there. Everything about this set, man, is just so great. The brick build head is my favorite out of any of the brick build heads they've ever done. It's just such a great set. There's nothing I don't like about it. Can't even nitpick about it. Flawless all the way around.